Hey, thanks so much for listening to the Ridge Community Church podcast. My name is John. I'm one of the pastors at the Ridge, and our vision is to bring the hope of Jesus into every home. So we want to bring you something hopeful and helpful for your everyday life, whether you've been following Jesus for a while or you're still trying to figure out exactly what you do believe about God. Now, you'll find on this podcast things that'll help with conversations about marriage and parenting and mental health and work, practical things to help you in your faith journey, and a lot more. So whether you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app or you're watching on YouTube, be sure to follow and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the hopeful and helpful conversations.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Ridge Podcast. As a church, we're about to launch into one of the coolest, the most impactful seasons of the year, Live Big. We take this as a chance to give generously and serve our community with some great local partners. And you'll hear a lot more about that over the next 3 weeks. But I want to invite the person who leads the charge of Live Big, the Ridge Compassion Director Kelly Eger, to come share some of her favorite moments, some of the impact that has happened in our community because of Live Big, and more. This is my conversation with Kelly. Hi, Kelly. Thanks for coming on to the Ridge Podcast.
I love being here.
Yeah, we've reached November, which means that people are buying large frozen turkeys that they're going to forget to thaw. Some people have decided it's time for Christmas music, and Live Big has arrived. So how do you feel about the arrival of November?
It's always a fun yet very stressful season. Like you look forward to it every year, and every year I start planning a little sooner and a little earlier in the calendar. But it always seems to creep up.
Yeah. And so this is our 10th year doing Live. Is it our 10th year or we've done 10 years? This is our 10th year, right?
10 year, right
Wow.
here, celebrating 10 years of Live Big.
And how many years have you been either doing it or been running it?
Yeah. This will be my 5th year leading Live Big. Although I'll put a little asterisk next to year 1 because my start date with the Ridge Community Church was literally November 1st of 2019. So I didn't
Right
do a
into the deep
whole
end.
lot of planning. It was really just drinking from a fire hose that first year. But I have been a part of the Ridge Community Church for a long, long time. So I've participated in Live Big for the first 5 years. So kind of transitioning from being in our listener seat as a participant versus now I'm kind of sort of leading it and driving it.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite moment? It can be either from either side. It can be from being, just a person who's partaking it. It can be as a leader, whichever one.
Actually, I have 2 moments that I'd love to share, kind of both sitting in both seats.
Yeah.
As far as leading it, that first year we did Winter Wonderfest was truly amazing. We had more than 1,000 kids, 1,500 kids storming our building, which was really awesome to see. But the stories coming out of it where the parents were reaching out to us and just saying how much it meant to them to just have this day with their kids. Those moments will always have a special place in my heart. But not all of those families were followers of Jesus. And that this event was kind of one of those just stepping stones for them then to get curious. Hey, what's this building? What's this thing called the Ridge? Which are all great, but it was really like, what does it mean to follow Jesus? What are you guys doing here that's so special? And now fast forward a couple of years later, some of those families that participated in year 1, they're now serving this event and their kids are serving. And it's truly amazing to see that kind of that evolution. Because those moments are what lives in my heart forever.
Like that, like they were served, they were loved well, And then because of that, they experienced the hope of Jesus. And now they're like, I want other people to be experiencing this as well. And that's such
Yeah.
what a cool picture.
Yeah. I mean, it went from it's just an event with a free toy to tell me a little more about what this hope that you guys talk about
Yeah.
looks like. And so if there's only one of those stories a year, I'll take it. But quite honestly, there's way more than that. Um, and that's really why I love continuing to do that event. To the point where now I am still helping lead it, but I've actually got an amazing team of people who start meeting. We're talking early parts of the spring to start planning this
Wow.
event that'll happen again in December, which is amazing.
And a lot of times it's people that like they served a little bit, right? And they got like that taste of like, oh wow, this is really impacting people. This is impacting me too. And then they're like, I want to do more of this, right?
Yeah. And I think part of it is they get to be a part of the planning process. They get to see it from, hey, what's the theme this year, to how many kids do we think we are going to be able to serve, to, hey, how about this challenge? Let's go from one building serving 1,500 kids to two locations and serving multiple communities. And what kinds of challenges is that going to bring? A whole lot that we're working through. And so,
Yeah.
it's a fun time.
Yeah.
To be a part of that team. So they're really sort of thinking through all of the things of, okay, well, we're going to do it in Greenfield this week, the first week in December. How do we break down and then have the right amount of stuff to go to our Oak Creek Franklin campus the next week to serve another 350 kids?
Yeah.
And so they're thinking through all of that and they're helping troubleshoot it. And I literally could not do it without them.
Love that.
And so that is one of my favorite moments. But on a personal side, just even last year, my husband and I and our kids were sitting down and we were talking about the giving part of Live Big, the generosity part. And even as the compassion director, I go out and I preach this, I kind of talk about this stuff all the time. My husband really one-upped me last year in a good way.
Yeah, I'm with him. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were sitting down at dinner. We were talking about what we were going to do for Live Big as a family. And my thing was, hey, everybody, let's write a number down on a piece of paper and let's kind of figure out what our family is going to give towards Live Big. And we all did that. And then my husband's like, okay, we've written this number down. What are we going to sacrifice? Because it's not just about what we can give, it's about what we're going to sacrifice to give to that number. And, my kids are a little older, they're teenagers, so they're starting to understand the concept of money. So understanding that we can't go out and do pizza every Friday like we do. We can't just be able to spend the extra money when we go to the store. And so it was really about that sacrificial giving that my husband was like, no, if we're going to lean into this, we really need to understand that there's a sacrifice that needs to be made. And that for me was a big personal favorite moment.
Yeah. Well, I imagine there's part of that that's seeing the people that you love and you're close to embracing, I think, the heart of the whole reason why we do Live Big in the first place, where we just like
Yeah.
try to help people grow in their generosity for others. Um, what, like, when you see somebody like challenging in that way, like, how does it affect your own faith?
It just reminds me that uh, God is so much bigger than what we have going on in our own little world, right? Like,
Mm.
um, the heart behind Live Big and is to help the least and the lost. Um, which, if you're not a follower of Jesus, just means like you have neighbors. We all have neighbors. Everybody is struggling. How do we come alongside them and support them? There are organizations in our community, these nonprofits that are set up to do these things well. We have a pregnancy center we have that we support. We have this year we have a high school that is helping young men problem solve. Um, Pretty cool concept. If you go to the website, you'll see them and how they work. We have City on a Hill that works with uh, homelessness and health center. They have a health center. And so supporting these organizations that are doing these things well is just it. And then going and serving them, this is where you witness the miracles of generosity.
Mm.
um, this is where you get to see Jesus's love in action. One of the things that I love to say is that we get to be Jesus's love in action. And when we serve these communities and these organizations, man, you get to see that support in a really deep way that Christ just encourages us to be bold in our faith.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's
Yeah. One of the
yeah.
really, like, I think like it's cool, but it's challenging part of Live Big is if you say you only participate in the generosity side, which is still incredibly valuable and is helping and is going to challenge your own faith and help you grow and all those things. So this doesn't take away from any of that. But there's this element to where, and it's almost like a release of I'm trusting that God uses these funds to help. And I think there is that extra level of connection when you're on the side and you get to see God use those funds to help people. And I think that's where some of the encouragement I see with like the serving, the loving piece of Live Big is that all of a sudden you're serving in a capacity that lets you see, oh, the money I gave last year, the money I'm giving this year, the money I encourage the people that follow me on social media to give this year is going towards this thing, and seeing the dynamic way that it can change people's lives. I think is really powerful.
Yeah, and if you have a listener right now who's not aware, 100% of the generosity that we bring in as a church goes directly back out to these organizations that we're partnering with. Um, and I was just thinking about it earlier today. Um, you know, we could be, we are a church as a noun, a place where people go to learn about what it means to follow Jesus. But we love to be a church that is a verb, and we
Mm.
get to take and be the church out in our community where we get to go and bring that hope with us, and we get to serve all of these amazing organizations that are just making a huge impact on the communities that they're involved in.
Do you
And
have
that
any favorite, like, and maybe not even favorite, but just stories that come to your mind when you think about like the impact that has happened in our community? I mean, even maybe it's over these 10 years, maybe it's something specifically that's happened recently. I'll give you the floor to decide which one is better for you. But maybe something that just like sticks
um
with you.
not a favorite because I love all of the
There
organizations.
it
It's like
is.
asking
Yes. It's
for a
like picking a
favorite
child.
child.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, um, but uh there's one that kind of sticks out. So we at the Ridge, generally partnering with organizations, and people will step up and say, "Hey, um, I really love this organization. I love what they do. How can I get more involved?" And I will come alongside them and kind of work with them on like, okay, well, help me set up serve days with this organization. Help me create awareness with this organization. And not once, but a couple of times, I've had individuals who have stepped up to be what I would call a team leader. Um, and then they get jobs with these nonprofits a year later. And I'm like, good problem to have?
Yeah.
Question mark. Yes, it is a great
Yeah.
problem to have. I've had people who have started out as just volunteers, who have stepped up as team leaders, and now are fully employed by these nonprofits. And that's really cool to see.
Well, I think that just exemplifies, right? One of the things we've talked, one of my favorite things we talk about with Live Big is that you're just kind of asking God to connect your heart to the things that matter to Him. And I believe that when we pray that, He says, okay. Sometimes that can be a little bit of a scary prayer because of that, because you
Yep.
never know what kind of cause and what kind of thing that God's going to call you to do. But I think you see it actually happening, and that's really cool. I actually hadn't heard about that people were starting to like actually be so involved that they then got jobs in the places that they were serving. That's really impactful.
Literally off the top of my head, I can think of two, with a third one happening really soon. We had actually met recently, and I joked, I'm like, it is only a matter of time before you're going to be employed by this organization. And I strongly feel like that's going to happen very soon for her.
Is there a specific type of I'm not suggesting that people need to serve so that they can get jobs. That's not what I'm saying at all. But is there a certain level of like openness that you see those people have that lets their connect with the themes and the cause that they're being a part of?
I don't know about an openness, but I definitely see that their heart aligns with God's heart, which then just maybe then everything opens, like if we're going to use that word.
Yeah.
Um, and it's funny because when people come to me at the beginning and they're like, "Hey, where do I begin?" Um, really, my feedback to them is go experience them all, because they're all so vastly different that I don't want to tell you where I need your help. I want you to go find out where you're being called to,
Yeah.
and then we'll go from there. So, really, at the beginning, my homework for them is go experience three or four of these partners and see which one's really calling to you, because you might you might have a calling for kids in foster care. You might not, that might not be your area of expertise, but you could definitely help a medical clinic in City on a Hill. Um, that might be more your thing. And so you really need to experience all of them to know which direction to go. I've had nurses who want nothing to do with a medical side of things because that's what they do every day.
Yeah.
And so they do want to go help a pregnancy center. I have teachers who want nothing to do with mentoring youth on their off time, but they're absolutely able to go facilitate like a food pantry, help with a food pantry. So, but then I do have teachers who want to mentor, and I do have nurses who want to be a part of City on a Hill. Actually, it was funny because I had a nurse who was going to volunteer at City on a Hill, and she thought she was going in to do part of the nursing stuff. And when she got there, all of the spots were filled. And so they're like, well, here are all the other options that you can select. And she'll tell you that she was kind of like, I came here to be a nurse, but I guess I'll be a greeter at your front door. And And now that's her favorite thing to do is she
Wow.
gets to be one of the first people that sees people coming in and getting registered every month, and she knows them by name.
Yeah.
And so uh, um, it yeah, you just never know. You never
Yeah.
know when you allow yourself to open up what God is going to put on your heart.
So as we go through these next 3 weeks, I know the services, there'll be messages on these things. You'll hear about various partners here on social media. Might even have some conversations on the podcast, sharing, highlighting some. As people are hearing those things, what would you encourage them to do, so they can vet out kind of, hey, is this where my heart is connecting? Is this where maybe God is leading me to serve in this area?
Yeah. I think the best place to start is prayer. I know as a church, we are really kind of diving deep into that, and I don't think there's a better place to start. Like, hey, God, um, break my heart for what breaks yours, and let me experience your love, and let me share that hope with somewhere else. But I don't know where to start with that. If you could lead me in a direction, that would be great. If there's a conversation worth having, point me in the right direction with the right person. Um, and, but they can always contact me. That's for sure. If
Yeah,
they're
you're
just
more
not
than
sure.
willing to be the voice of God, I'm sure. Yes.
Absolutely. But I have a very good way of challenging people to get in and get their hands dirty, in ways that they probably never thought. If you come to me, be prepared to be put into action
Yeah.
because that's what I do best.
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay. Speaking of action, what's your hope? Maybe we can kind of wrap up with this. What's your hope for Live Big this year?
Um, Gosh, this year my hope is that we deepen the impact. And I don't know if we are more generous this year than we have ever been. We're serving more hours and more organizations than we've ever served before, or it's just simply by showing up in a way that connects with a neighbor. If you could serve Winter Wonderfest and you're there to connect with a single mom who is broken and walks in our doors for the first time, that's just showing up. Um, I really would love to mobilize as many people as possible so that we can come together and serve our community and just in a really significant way.
Yeah.
I know that I always have this idea or this thought of what will happen, and God always just blows me out of the water. And I really hope that this year, Live Big just becomes a beacon of hope for more people, in more communities.
I love that. And maybe we can get all three, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That'd be awesome. Kelly, thank you so much for sharing your heart on this, some of those stories. And really, I'm with you. I just hope that I love that deepen the impact, because I just want to see the community just really be impacted by the things that we're doing. So thank you.
We can be the church or we can go be the church. And that's kind of
Ooh,
where that's the deepening the impact that kind of is being laid on my heart right now.
I love that. Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was my conversation with Kelly, and I loved hearing the stories about what God does in people's hearts when they serve. Come join us for Live Big starting this weekend, and head on over to our website where you can find out more about Live Big, our partner organizations, and a lot more. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Ridge Podcast. Make sure to follow and subscribe so you don't miss any hopeful and helpful conversations.